Screen's froze. I'm just kidding. Hey, this is Brooke with Printrbot, Printrbot.com. Live on Facebook every Thursday, 4:30-ish. It's 4:35, not too bad, as Brooke time goes. Well, every week I don't think I have much to talk about. We'll see how that goes. But I do want to start with a happy birthday to my nephew, Ben. Ben happens to be 4 today. Is that right? Oh, lag. Is Ben 4, Dave? Is Ben 4?
Yeah, he's 4 today. He's a big boy.
Today he's a big boy. Ben. You got a picture of him?
No.
Dang it. Are you the type of guy that would show your kid's face on? No! You and Carl need to get together. No offense, Carl. We love you. Anyway, happy birthday to Ben. Dave is getting me started here, which is much appreciated, and then I am flying solo. So if I crash the plane, notify your family. You all will be along for the ride. All right, so anyway, this week I did an impromptu Facebook Live thing. Not really sure why, except I needed to get a little printer that is much like this one right here. This is I think it's the oldest. Is it the oldest? Yeah. It's this is older, but this is the first version of the, what was it called? The Simple. That's actually where the Simple name started. It was Junior before, which had the same type of setup. But the Junior, like I said before, I thought it'd be clever and have the bed fold up so you could carry it with you. I carried it on a plane. I think that's the first one that I actually printed at 20 or 30,000 feet. It was battery operated. I had this big battery pack underneath it. It weighed as much as the whole bot. A couple of 12-volt quadcopter batteries. By the way, I don't recommend this, but I was in the window seat, and my wife, it was cold on the plane, and I had it in my bag. I think it was in my backpack. I had this big backpack, but it was only, like that big, folded up. And my wife was, I think she was sleeping, or at least she had her eyes shut, listening to music or something. And I had the blanket pulled up over me, and I got down there and I started to print because I had an auto start. So I just switched it on. I think it was a cube or something. And I switched it on, and I was like, is this going to work? This has got to be a very small club of people that have 3D printed on an airplane. Anyway, so it did print. And my wife woke up, or at least opened her eyes, and was like, familiar smell, because I think it might have even been ABS, which is not good. But I think it was ABS, and she smelled it. And she was like, what are you doing? She got really nervous. So anyway, at least that's how I remember it. My wife, if she's watching, is probably going to correct me when I get home, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. I do know I printed something, some blob, some squarish object on a plane. But that was the first style of printer that I had the bed like that. Then it went on to this. So I met a guy at Midwest Rep Rap Festival who has he has some sight issues. I guess legally he's blind. He said it's not a sensitive subject, but it's hard to explain. So maybe it comes and goes, maybe it's limited. But he was able to get one of these. I believe he told me it was the string as belts, because that's where we started. I think did we start this at $299 or was it $400? Yeah, this started at $299, and I was just trying to get the price down. How do you compete with China? Well, you get really creative. And well, first you can be first. They'll follow on and cut pricing, but made out of wood, cheap bars. There wasn't a lot of hardware in this. I remember when I designed this, I was like, as many zip ties as possible, less screws, as few parts as possible. And anyway, so my friend that I met, he had one of these and said, man, I had to sell it because he had very little money, so I think he sold it when he was in college. And he went on to help, now he's teaching kids about 3D printing that are, I think they're challenging kids to work with. I don't know exactly what the details are, but he told me, these are kids that need someone to focus some time and energy towards them and let them know that they're important. And so he teaches them 3D printing, and he's had some really cool success stories with that. So I just wanted to endorse him. He asked if I had any of these left around. I did find one that I think it was Berkeley. First I thought it was a hackerspace, but I think it was a guy at Berkeley had a couple of these. He gave me this one back and another one. I think it was the 1405 with the belts. We upgraded it to the belts. And it had even an option for the sensor and a direct drive geared, it was machine metal. But anyway, so I did this video a couple days ago, and it is very long and rambling. It's a different style than what we're doing today. But I was surprised that, there was probably, every time I looked down, because I was flying solo that night too, and I actually have, hey Dave, could you start, I don't know where to click on this. I am a Facebook idiot because I don't even like Facebook. I'm not on it.
What did you want me to start?
I just want to see the video on my screen, can I? So like the chat, if there's questions.
You want to, okay, yeah, you want to be able to see when there are questions.
But anyway, I was flying solo and wasn't paying a lot of attention, but there's only like 15 guys or whatever. And when I got home, my wife said, I watched part of it, and it was like 2 hours later, and they said, you've got 800 views. And I'm like, oh boy. That's surprising because that was long form live video. Ooh, the lag is strange.
Yeah.
Really weird. Oh yeah, Margie Hale Drum is there. So, what do we got today? We got 17 people! Is that a record?
No.
We do this live because I kind of like the idea of the live questions. But I realize that a lot of people are going to watch this later, and that's fine. So we're glad for anybody that watches. But anyway, I'll keep it a lot shorter today. I did want to show you, this is the last remaining, in this shop, this is the only original simple kit. I think we ended up calling it the Simple Makers Kit. This is very old. And when I looked at the design, it was pretty surprising, some of the stuff I did on this. I'm really glad to be making in metal. Ironic that I say that when I have a desk full of printed and wood parts. But I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, so this one is needing some work. So I thought I would get that at least presentable for the shelf. I don't know if I'll actually, I do want to actually go back and see how this, I still have a spool of this string. So I will get this running, so maybe I'll do another video of me trying to get this running, which should be hilarious. Anyway, that's why that's on the table. So anyway, I got that shipped out, and that was kind of a fun video. Check it out if you want to. Now the next thing I'd like to talk about is, well, you know what? This is quick. So I know I'm late for the couple of guys that ordered the beta CNC kit. I realized that that's wasn't going to be a hot seller because you got to do a bunch of stuff yourself, but you do save the most money. And somebody told me, hey, that open builds, I didn't bring the CNC in here, you've seen it. But I did get a notification from somebody, hey, that's the wrong size. And it's funny because we built the bot and had it there for pictures, but we didn't put the router in it. This is a DeWalt DWP 611. And the reason that I endorse this particular one, everybody has an opinion on their tools, right? I'm not that opinionated about it. It's just that I went to Shapeoko and the Maker Slide stuff, Inventables, and some CNC forums, and everybody really likes this one. It has LEDs on the bottom. I don't really need to plug it in, but it has LEDs on the bottom, so you can see the work, and it does have a little mount that's pretty cool, so you can screw this up and down if you're using it separately. But the cool thing about this DeWalt DWP 611, it's about $125 on Amazon, I believe. But the reason I did this is there's some videos online of, and I haven't done it yet, but you can actually hack this, take the top off, and solder on a couple of parts, and this becomes a controllable spindle. So when I say spindle, what I mean is you can electronically control the speed, the RPM of the router via software. Now, we don't even have a board that does that yet, okay? So let me just be clear. But I thought that would be really cool. There's also an add-on, though, that you can buy for these. What is that called? I forget what it's called. I don't know if the chat room knows, but there's an open source project that is some sort of electronic speed controller. It has a little LED, like the really simple characters. Has that LED and a dial so you can see the RPM. But to be able to control the RPM of a router is actually very special, and especially a $125 router. So that's why I went with this. Now, the open builds was, I think, 1 or 2 millimeters too big. It was the black anodized I've shown in other videos. And so a guy said, hey, it doesn't fit. This doesn't fit with that. So today, Mark, I like to call him my junior engineer. It's a little bit of a joke because it just means he's younger than me. Neither of us are engineers, let's be honest. But he does a great job because he's up for anything and he's really smart. And so we had done some parts. In fact, it's right here. We had done some parts for this. This was probably one of the few smalls that's not so smalls. The smalls thing is kind of a joke. This was the upgrade with machine parts. So, in fact, I don't even have the machine part here, but we have an unbelievably nice CNC machine block that was like $40 to make. And it just got, it sort of drifted away from its, I hit the target with the smalls. It was very rigid and very cheap, and it included water jet parts and plastic parts. But then I had people like, let's upgrade it. I want upgrades. And so when they say upgrades, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to print better. It just means it's the build volume bigger. And this one's sort of a joke because I shipped the smalls with a little screw in here that limited the travel on the Y purposefully because we shipped with these small little beds. You can add a 6-inch Y, and then it goes all the way out to there, which looks like more than 6, but I think it's 6. And then we added these long bars. These were actually in the plus. And I didn't add the bed yet, but you can do that too. But anyway, so when I was making this, I knew I wasn't going to sell a lot of them. And so we actually water jetted. There's 2 parts that are water jet. This one at the top here that holds the handle, this is a printed piece. Dave actually designed this. Believe it or not, Dave, our customer service guy, my brother-in-law, he does some design. This is all metal, and it's, what is that, 1/2 inch, maybe? And we water jet it, and then we put it in our Tormach, which I sold. Kind of sad about it. And we finished the inside, the ID, inner diameter, to be perfect, and we tapped it, and it worked so well for this because this, you just can't twist this at all. Not at all. It is so rigid, and it was such a cheap part to make. And there's one at the bottom, too, a little different shape. It's more complicated, but we finished it in the CNC, so that was pretty cool. But I knew we could do that. We're not the best at CNC. Brian Rowe, who used to work here, he was like a master, but anyway. So we knew that this was the wrong size for the open build, so you can't buy that. I always wanted to make these here anyway, so this is the first one that he made, and he made a couple of these, or maybe this is the first one and he has to make one tomorrow, but we'll ship those kits out tomorrow, so we finally have the right size mount for this. We standardized on the, so this is just a water jet, and we corrected the kerf on the back a little bit with a 90-degree sander we have, and then we actually just he marked this off with calipers, drilled it, and then tapped it. We have a lot of drilling tap stuff, or a lot of tap and dies. So anyway, this is rock solid. It is not going anywhere, and that's going to be our mount, so we're going to ship that out. I wanted to show that to you. That will be included in the bare bones kit. So we did change the product. If you do buy the bare bones kit right now, we've only sold a couple, and now we're very confident. We got to get some parts in to offer the full kit. So next week, the next step, once we get the first kit done, which is essentially done, we just have to get some parts in. And it's just extrusion, so it's nothing big. So this is finally done, and we'll be getting it for sale as a full kit next week. we're also going to launch at the same time the Crawlbot size CNC. So I've been talking about, well, this is going to be, any size you want. Well, we're going to test that next week. I guess if it sucks, I won't put it in the store, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be great because it's actually lighter and it will be more. So the old Crawlbot rolled on inline skate wheels, and it was hard to, you had to like push it together and lock it down to keep it rolling. And the rails on the edges, while it's a novel idea to use the edge, we had little roller bearings along the edge of the wood that would kind of guide it. It does work, but you're limited by that a little bit. So the next version of the Crawlbot, we have a couple of 7-foot rails that are going to be our Y. And so we're actually going to just elevate that off the table enough to clear on the bottom. If you look at the picture on the CNC, you'll see what I'm talking about. And we'll do a Crawlbot. Well, it won't be quite Crawlbot size because I didn't want to order 10-foot rail. It's slower. So I'm going to test it on a 7-foot Y rail with some double, it's 3 inches tall by 1.5 inch. So anyway, we're going to do that. So the Crawlbot is out of stock. We've made our last one. Actually, I saved one for myself. I kept giving away the ones I built for myself. And I just gave away a couple. But I built a couple for myself, used it here. I don't have one here. I'm going to save the last one for me and my guys. And we're going to build the V2 Crawlbot is really what it is, but it's a CNC at Crawlbot size. So that's next week. That's my goals for next week. And now that we have them out, we're good to go. And man, is this so much simpler than the old Crawlbot style gantry. I'm so glad we've made this change. So I'm pretty excited. We're going to cut some big projects with that. All right, another reminder. Let me see. Actually, let me see if there's any questions. So if you got a question, I'm here alone, so I'll just be boring for a second. We have 20 watchers. That's awesome. Thanks for joining me, everyone. So it's how much and when will the TinyBot be available? I don't know what you're talking about, Christopher Sweeney. So did I call something the TinyBot and forgot? Let's see. Any other questions? Will the Printrbot ever be sold again? Chitty Taylor. Yes, it will. Thank you. I know. I embarrass myself with how long I wait to launch things sometimes. So yes, it absolutely will. In fact, I'm trying to decide whether or not to go to Maker Faire. I know that's crazy to some of you, but no slam against Maker Faire at all. They've been a wonderful help to me in my business here. But you wouldn't believe the prices of some of these booths. And so I got burned a little bit last year. Was it last year? 2 years ago. I decided, you know what, let's see if this works. I'm going to spend more money. I'm going to get the biggest booth. I'm going to take the biggest staff. Yeah, like literally $30,000, $40,000 later. And that's with taking employees, paying for them to be room and board and the whole nine. I probably spent $40,000 on that trip, at least almost. So if we go this year, it'll probably be a small booth, but I will. My goal is to bring the printer belt. If we go, we'll have the printer belt and maybe a surprise, something else maybe. We'll see. But yes, it will. That's. I'll tell you about the Adopt-A-Bot. I'm finally done. In fact, I'm sick of it. I've done so much design on this. It's really almost there. And where I just, you know what, it is what it is. It's a strange little beast, but I spent a lot of time on that, spent a lot of time on the CNC, and there is nothing else to do but get that printer belt out and get it running. So yes, I will sell it. I think what I'll do, I've been saying this for a while, and I know, I mean, I actually have a pile. Remember the little tank? It's sitting right here in pieces. So I'll give you a profile. Oh, it's like this, actually. I'm sorry. I took it apart because I got it all together, and I went to test it. And I didn't expect to show you this, but I'll show you. I went to test it, and I realized I had the drive gears all screwed up. So this was the tank. It's missing one on this side. But I have to completely redo the gearing on this belt because I reversed it in my mind and I just screwed up. So yes, I want to finish this because I'm so enamored with these sandpaper belts. So this works like this. It actually does move. I mean, it would have printed, but the Z was just, it skipped because I had the ratios all wrong. So this is completely, it goes like this, and it goes like this. Whoops, the hot end's out. I'm not sure why. So it's like this and like this. So anyway, that's I'm calling it the printer tank. Yes, I'm stuck on printer because I have a logo, or if you search PRINTR, BOT, you're just going to find us. So I name things like that. But so that one, I'm thinking about taking a larger version of that to Maker Faire. But yeah, I'm going to sell the printer belt. I think the timing, I probably almost missed the best timing for the printer belt because there may be somebody out there that, I think there's a company in Italy that's actually selling something like the black belt, but who cares? I want to do it open source first, and that's why I got that one out, to show you. My hope is to release it to the community as something for free that you can build, or a cheap kit, so that we get some feedback before I put out a product that is completely unproven, and I mean in the market. Nobody has these, and so there's probably going to be a tepid response, as there was on the first initial launch. I was like, well, I can build these here. Let's do some betas. Joel jumped, a couple other guys, and I thought, you know what? Let's just wait for the timing. But after being to Midwest Rep Festival, there was definitely a lot of interest in it, so I have to do it. All right. Chitty Taylor, awesome. I'll get one when it does go for sale for our startup product. Yeah, it's pretty cool. The two really neat things about it are, of course, it can print really long, very, very long. But the other cool thing, I mean, because this is just novel, right? The other cool thing is with the cloud that Bill William Steele from Polway 3D that he's got set up, it's perfect for queuing many, many prints and just keeping that thing rolling. You can also do multiples of one print. So like if I wanted to do 100 Adopt-A-Bots, I could just line up all the parts, say copy, 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 and just keep going. And if there is a failure, well, it fails. It'll still roll to the end of the belt and dump off into the bucket. So you might, if you come in the next day, it's always printing, come in the next day and there's like 5 failed parts, you can actually add those into the queue right in the middle of all of the other queues. So you can like bump it up to the front of the line and say, hey, these failed, so I'm going to go this, that, and the other part. So that's really where it's compelling. I initially thought that it would be a large nozzle, high flow, hot end type of a thing where we can print really big things. I do have a 12 by 12 version of it. And I like printing in those nozzle styles, but it's not useful for everything. So we will do, like a 0.4 tip on it. And I really want to nail the resolution because people are so caught up with that resolution. If you're going to use it for manufacturing, you need it to look good. And then I came up with another idea I don't want to tell you about, but when I texted Bill about it right after Murph, because there was a lot of discussion on the printer belt. I texted him after Murph and said, hey, I've got this idea that has been bugging me. I think I have an idea to fix it. And what do you think about it? And I actually thought he was going to write me back and like, no, that is not a good idea. But he actually called me like right then, and he was getting on a plane to China. And he called me, he's like, that is a great idea, so I don't want to tell you what it is until I try it. It's not easy to build, so I got to build it. And I think if I'm able to pull this off, it'll give me a lot more confidence with this belt because it's that first layer that's been bugging me. When you're at this angle, 35-degree angle, it's kind of squirting that plastic out, and it's hard for it because there's not the same amount of pressure. On a wedge, there's more pressure at the bottom where it touches the bed than there is at the top, so you get this weird first layer. I think I have a way to fix that. So anyway, enough about that. If you do have other questions, just type them. But I'll tell you about the Adopt-A-Bot, and we will be done. So I actually have a guy. I don't want to give too many details because we might be, I just don't want to, I want to respect him. But there's a gentleman that came to me from India, and he was just interested in education in India, and he looked at our website and saw all of the teachers and the schools that we have on our map, and our little newsletters, sort of a Printrbot education network, to loosely describe it. Just a bunch of teachers that have Printbots, right? And he saw the Adopt-A-Bot stuff and was really interested. And people really do like that story of students printing. Like, yes, Adopt-A-Bot is the community printing, building, delivering, supporting. It's a rep app, open source, that you can build and then deliver it to a school. It just gives them a first taste. Yes, there's better printers out there, but I dare say there's none cheaper than what you can build one of these little guys for. It's small, lots of printed parts. In fact, I think it's the most, well, if I replace the bearings with printed parts, which I haven't even tested yet, I did that years ago, but they wear out. But without the bearings, I think there's the fewest amount of other parts in these bots than any other rep, I believe. I mean, I can't imagine how you can have less. You have to have smooth rods, or rods of some sort, if you want any kind of quality, and you have to have a lead screw, and motors, and bearings. On this one, because I'm going to give this to my friend from India, these two, I'm going to finish building this, and then I have to do this tonight, by the way. A little heads up to my wife. But I put a metal one on here because this is kind of a demo, and you want it to work well. So if you've noticed, well, let me say this. I've got the beta files for I forget what I'm up to, 1.3. I think it's 1.3. It might be 1.2. But anyway, if you look on the news and blog section of adoptabot.org, you can get the new files, but they're beta. And of course, when I make something beta, it means it's not done. And it wasn't done. And so I've been designing actually quite a lot on this little bot. Because I met this gentleman from India this week, and he said, hey, we want to take this over to India and show some people and look at doing this Adopt-A-Bot over in India. Lots of schools in India. In fact, the stats just are staggering. There's 1.3 million schools. Now, that means like private, some very small schools. It's a different culture. But there's a lot of schools over there, and I think he said 238 million students between I think this is like elementary or grade school. It might be kindergarten age. I don't even know if they call it kindergarten, but all the way up to high school. And then if you add in the colleges, that's a big number. So, and they wouldn't, it's not going to be like one per student. It would be like one per school, and it'll move slow at first if it works out. But I got excited that he liked the story, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm in the middle of this redesign. I probably ought to finish some of these things that I listed last week that I really wanted to fix. So I did. So I'll take you on a little tour of this. First thing that you notice, and I got this one that's not done because I wanted to show you a couple things. First off is on this model, which is, this is the telltale sign that it's 1.3, I believe. I keep looking at my screen like it's going to be there waiting on me. Remember, guys, if you got a question, ask it in the chat here, and I'll check it. But when I did this, it actually, it wasn't really strong in the bottom because the way it was oriented when we printed it. It just wasn't that strong, and it actually snapped a little bit at the bottom here. Not a big deal for a demo, but I wasn't happy with it. So I've got a new version, and it's 1.4. So I'll post these files under beta, and I think I'll remove the 0.3 because I don't want to confuse people. But my many thanks to the people that have started printing 1.3, and also an apology. I'm sorry, it's over. I think I've changed every part. Well, not every part. But anyway, this is a actual working. We actually printed our 20 by 20 square, and this one works. It works great. So there were several things I learned, and I thought you'd get a kick out of a couple of them. Number one, huge improvement from putting M3 screws with a nut on these clamped sections for the bars. So everywhere there's end of a bar, here, 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 and even in the base here, that one was tricky to get right. In fact, it's not perfect yet, but it's much, much, much better. This is the new one too. It prints really easy. It's all one piece. It's not 3 separate pieces. What was I thinking? Well, I was thinking it was going to be able to be printed on this bot, but it's just not. It's just not going to be. Actually, it might. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But this version of it is more rigid. So for people that have print beds bigger than 4 by 4 inches by 4 inches. So this is a little bigger. You need a 6 by 6 bed for these files, but only 6 by 6. But anyway, so everywhere has a clamp on it and a screw. Now, big learning. I was printing just for speed. I've got a few Simple Pros, and you can just throw a file at it, and it slices standard at 0.1 millimeter layer height. And I think it's like 10% infill or something. Well, that ain't going to do it. Not when you put a screw and put several pounds of pressure on it to tighten. They crack. So we started printing 0.4 layer height on an older Simple and 40% infill and more walls and make it a lot stronger. So anyway, a lot of these parts, a little bit ugly, but the beautiful ones are on the Pro. The ugly ones are on the old Simple Metal or Play. But anyway, so make sure you have the heat plenty high for good layer adhesion. Make sure you have lots of walls, top and bottom, and you give it like at least 40% infill. You want these things strong. And they're not that big. I mean, the parts, that's a really small part. So just print it with tons of infill. You never need to go solid, by the way. It's been proven in studies that that sounds like a BS line, but there's somebody that studied this, and it was at some university. 70% infill, maybe I learned this from Tom, is as good as 100% infill. It doesn't get any stronger. So, 70% would be solid, but I usually hover around 40, 50. Anyway, so I've done a really good job with these small parts. So they have recessed nuts in them. I was noticing today that I need to put the recesses in this part here. It's not recessed yet. And when you don't recess your nuts, you have to use longer screws, and I like to use the shortest screws possible. So there's just a couple of things. But all of those clamped bars are there. Now, on this version, you'll recognize nope. Oh, yeah. On this version, these bearings were press fit. Now, depending on if you've calibrated your bot, you might go to push one of these in, and it's a little loose. Well, that's annoying. So then you have to start to hack it. Well, that's over. This new design, I know these are kind of hard to see, but anyway, go look at the files once I post them. I'm going to sit down. Okay, so Dave got me this shirt, actually. All right, so this one, it's round on the press fit, and it's hexagon style. It's not a full hexagon on this one. So you can still press the bearings in, but we've got these 2 long screws here that go through at an angle, and there's actually nuts in here. So all of the bearings now are locked in with tension on a clamp. A clamp of some sort. I use a couple different styles. But so that alone, even on the top, 3 screws on the top, clamps it down. 3 screws on the bottom, instead of sticking straight up in the air like this one. Bloop, that one's done. This one is so much better. The bottom goes up, so it's a little more, you can kind of see this, the 2 different styles. So this one is much more sturdy. You can see how it's split right there, so I got to beef that up too. I've got a list of little changes to make, but now that's it's getting down to where, oh, it's so close. Anyway, so that was good. I also resized. I went over some of this last week, but in the old Adopt-A-Bot, you could only use a medium motor or small on the extruder. You'd want to use a medium. But I actually made room for a large motor. So, of course, this is out in the air. That can be large. I made the case taller so that you can get a large in there. I actually have medium nut right now, so you see there's space. And then there's space in between these two. This is a medium motor, but you can also get a large in there. So if you just wanted, or if you had some large motors. Now, the old Adopt-A-Bot, okay, so we've got two Z's and we got two Y bars. I've been thinking about this for a while, so here's what I did. To test this idea, I've had this in drawings before, I mean like years ago, but I thought nobody's going to take me serious if I do this. I actually bolted this one, drilled some holes in it, and I bolted a single bearing on the front, and I omitted the second bar on the X. So this only has one bar, so this flops around, right? How's that going to work? Well, the first thing I did was I tried this. It's just a bearing. It's like a little bearing. And I guess you could glue it, but I bolted it into that one. And with that bolted in, you'd be surprised how when you're, whoops, oh, I know what happened. I cut the feet off on that one. But anyway, so you'd be surprised how easily this rolls. So I got a nice flat surface. In fact, it was granite. And I had it rolling on the table, and it does totally work. But when you pick this up, this starts to flap around, and I thought, well, they're not going to take me serious like this. But if you were traveling with this, you would take two screws out and maybe cut that zip tie. And you just take this whole gantry off. And then you've got something that's very, very skinny. I mean, this thing is skinny. So you could easily put that in your suitcase. I mean, this is probably less volume than a shaving kit. They're about the same if you put that up on the side. So this is totally like a good traveler. But I didn't like this too well. And then I did have a large motor in the front, and it was hilarious because Gabriel was putting it together, and all this weight was on the front, and it was pushing over like this. Yes, sometimes I am so clever that when you solve one problem, another one happens. So here's my fix. Anyway, I stopped doing this. I thought, well, I don't want to have to drill another hole in the metal. And my dream eventually is this would be wood, or I say dream, it's going backwards a little bit, but if you had a piece of glass that would work in here, that's fine, although sharp. You could use wood, you could use, I don't know if there's some kind of stock piece of aluminum about that size, but this is easy to make because you don't have to put any holes in it. This one has holes in it because I'm using an older one that was on an old Simple Makers kit. But anyway, so I wanted to mint that bar. It also looked a little funky. It's more things to print, it's more parts, it's more weight. I wanted to figure this out with one. So while I tried that, I wasn't convinced that's the best idea, although it does work. So this is what I ended up with. Notice it's not flapping. I'm picking it up. Now it still has this, but here's what I did. So I actually welded this together with a soldering iron just to test it. So pardon the, you can probably see it's a little bit ugly here. But I have feet on this now because it needed more. I love how this sits too. You can work on it. It just sits like that. So you can see no feet on this because it was tippy. And on this little guy, I added this triangle. It actually printed pretty quick. It's not, I put, you know, there's like a box shape that goes around this. And so it's very strong. I did weld it here. I can add screws later or figure out. I had a sliding slot mechanism that actually worked really well, but I had the one dimension off and it didn't work. So anyway, I've got this just welded on, plastic weld. So a couple of screws here. So it actually sits almost like a tri-legged stool. You know, you can't. You go to the diner and you sit down at the table and the table's wobbly, and you sit down in your chair and the chair's wobbly. It's because there's 4 legs. If you have 3 legs, all the legs touch the ground all at the same time. So that's kind of the feel of this, although there's 2 little protrusions in the back as feet. But it actually does kind of go like that a little bit. But it's okay if it tilts up a little bit. It's, you know, if there's any flex in it, it's got a little spring in it. And the fun thing is I just omitted the bearing, and on this foot here, there's a little lip on the front side. It's a little ledge, and this bed slides on that ledge. It's about a 1/2 millimeter up in the air. So this slides as well on that as anything. It's really just sliding on PLA. Now there's several really impressive printers that you'll see use this technique. They'll put bearings on a bar or a linear rail, and then on the other side they'll have like a round bar, and then they'll have like this crappy little piece of plastic that just kind of like holds onto it a little bit, because 3 points is always good. In fact, I thought about making that a single point in the middle. I may still do that in case it's warped. Maybe I'll make a high point in the middle, but this, I think it's going to, whoa, I don't really think it's going to work well. It actually printed today, just a square, so I need to do some more testing, but that works really well, and it's totally sturdy, and this thing is so much more rigid. Yeah. Got to change that. Anyway, so the Adopt-A-Bot is so close to being done. So check it out if you want it when I post the files. I'll post it in that blog again on adoptabot.org. So that is all my updates on my design that I've done on the Adopt-A-Bot. Now, I did have this out to remind me. So I had a guy, and the fact that I had one today that was tippy, it does accentuate the fact that I am using very large motors for the size of this thing. So I bought some of these NEMA 14, and when I have another week to just throw into a black hole of design, I could replace these with some NEMA 14s, and this thing could get even smaller. Now, you don't want it too much smaller. I'd use the same bars, but it would get a little bit lighter with this. Now, it's funny that people say, why do you use those big motors? They're not that much bigger than this. You know what I mean? Like when you line them up on the bottom corner and you're right, what is that, 10 millimeters tops. So they're not that much bigger. I think he did belts. But he did half size. It was exactly half that size with NEMA 10s, and it did extrude. Oh, you know what, though? He used a Bowden tube. But anyway, maybe I'll do this, or maybe somebody can take my design and make it out of NEMA 14s. I'd be happy to have somebody else do that work. All right, enough of that. Ow. All right, we're almost done. Last chance for questions. It's 5:17. Will large motor fit in as the extruder? Yes. With 1.3 and 4, the large extruder motor totally fits in there. You'll probably, if yours is forward tippy, if you don't print these new files with the base and everything, you'll need to make sure that's zip tied down to something, but it makes it heavier out there. But yes, all of these files fit the larger motor. I wonder if I have one. Well, I can't ask Dave to go grab one, but yes, you'll have to trust me. It fits the larger motor. So you can have 4 large motors. In fact, one of the incentives for me to do this is I have a bunch of those larger Kaisans, and I want to get rid of them because we make our own wire now, and they come with this big long wire, and it's kind of a pain. Even this wire that we used off of the Smalls, there's too much wire. I like the wire to be neat and tidy, and I want to get rid of the Kaizen motors that have like wire that long. It's like 28 inches long or something. Will you sell electronic kits for us to print the Adopt-A-Bot for ourselves? Of course. What I'll do is, and this is the next phase, once this is done, then I will put it, because it's out of stock right now. I mean, I could sell some, but I don't want to until we get to the new model. So once this is, well, it is done. Probably just a couple more hours of design. But yeah, now that I've verified this, not once, I have verified this, it works, it is something that I'd be proud to have anybody have their first, again, I shipped this thing and had a lot of people get into 3D printing with this and it didn't kill them. So this will be fine. In fact, it is funny that when you put these side by side, They're essentially identical size. But while this was $300 several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and it had, I believe, a smaller build volume. Is that right? No, it had a pretty tall. I think it was 3.5 though. This is a little bit larger, I believe. Might not have the Z. Oh, by the way, I did change this nut. So there was a weird thing going on in the last version that I just didn't like. So this is a standard. Well, this is actually the not the 4-star. This is an upgrade Delrin part that I had in-house, but you can use a McMaster-Carr nut for that. Or I might just include some of these in the kit. So beware, it is not tied down, it is loose. So look. Wait, how do I do that? See that? It's loose. That's intentional, actually. Leaving the nut to fly free means it's not constrained, and it reduces the Z-banding, which in a very small bot that isn't that rigid like the old one wasn't. This is more rigid, so I don't think it would suffer too much if you constrained it. But, you know, we're using vinyl as the coupler again, back to the old school ways. I didn't want that tied down, so that is designed for a little part that I have in-house. But yeah, kits. So I got a lot of these bars, a lot of these. I mean, thousands of these, thousands of these. I'm out of the LM8UU linear bearings, so that's why I wanted to do printed bearings, in case you didn't want to invest in LM8UUs, which are like $12 or $15 for 12. I think I paid $15 for 12. They're not the greatest quality, but you can get nice ones. If we did a printed piece, man, that really drops the price again. More printed parts is cool. I do recommend you buy one of our extruders. The plastic one does work. It would be fine to start with, and then they could upgrade if they wanted. But yeah, I'm going to put together a wiring kit that is, in the past I did a wiring kit that was like, here's some old wire that, you know, me and Margie, my wife, like got together and you had to do some soldering and stuff. But we're pretty much through all that we want to use like that. So the future wiring kits will actually be fully completed and plug them in. So that'll be nice. If you wanted to opt for an extruder, that's sold separately. The hot ends are sold separately. The electronics are available separately. Those go all the way back to Rev D. I have a lot of those. We're selling them like cheap, like $30 or something. And I warranty them just like I warranty everything else. They work. So that's the answer. What else we got? Love the 1405. Yeah, I know. I don't have one anymore. Let's see, what else? Mark Iverson, 1405 is where I started, ripping them apart to make the Adopt-A-Bot. Now, I know that's what I was doing, too. The last ones I had, I ripped apart and turned them into Adopt-A-Bots or put them on other bots. Support exists. It's just slow. Why is your support? Carbine something. Why is my support non-existent? Well, I don't want to be snarky. I know that it may seem slow at times. Let me tell you how it works. Carmine. It's not non-existent. We have actual humans doing actual work. I pay them, so I know that they're real. We have a total of 4 people that are paid to do support. It may not sound like a lot. In fact, 2 of them are part-time. One of them has actually both Dave and Heather have other jobs too. Now, I also do support in this way. When I'm on Google Plus or Twitter, I'm there all the time, at least 2 times a day, sometimes 3. And if somebody's having a problem, I help them if I can. But let me tell you what I've told the support team. So you cannot support a product forever. And that's just, you know, the reality of life. So what we do is we do a warranty that everybody agrees to when they buy their bot. And so that warranty says, and I even forget what it is, but you have a period of time at which you and I both have agreed that if you don't like it, that's totally fine, I get it. There's been a lot of people ship back stuff because they get into 3D printing thinking it's going to be like, hey, it's easy. It ain't easy, it's hard. It's a lot easier with the Simple Pro, I must say. But it's more than some people are up for. They get it. They have a bad first experience. And I got to tell you, this is just being honest. Many people do not read instructions. Many people do not read instructions. And I'm not saying that's you, Carmine. But many people don't. And so some people, they don't want to go look it up. They don't want to figure it out. I don't know. They just aren't into it. And so they ship it back. There's a restock fee. And they've agreed to that. And I'm happy to take them back. I refurb them, sell them for less. Sometimes I give them away. Anyway, so that's what we do with our warranty, or with our warranty. You have a time at which you're welcome to ship it back, no questions asked. Now, I have people all the time. In fact, there's a guy today that, I forget what it was. It might have even been a Crawlbot, or it was something expensive. And he's had it for months on end, and he said, hey, I'm just getting around to trying it out, so I don't want it. So I want my money back. Well, that's not what we agreed to. So I'm pretty staunch on that, hey, this is a contract that you're signing. You're giving me money, and I'm promising X, Y, and Z. So that's what I do. And I think it's pretty reasonable. And I've bent the rules before, but not so much anymore. I just abide by what I said I would do. Now, if there's a problem with the hardware, I am extremely, ask these guys in the chat room, go on my Twitter account, go on Google+. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. What I'm saying is I am a generous man when it comes to somebody's got something that broke. Whether it's their fault or my fault, many times I've been kind enough to just ship them apart. And a lot of times I don't even charge them shipping. That's not a policy, though. That's for me to reward nice people. So at the expense of maybe Carmine here, when people come online, and I'm not upset, but when people come online and start to be mean, that's when you turn the switch off. And so I tell my customer support people the following. Because I own the whole company. I don't have to answer to anybody. I write the rules. And it's really nice that way. I don't have to. I'm not ever, first of all, I'm not that PC. You've heard me. I don't think the earth is going to melt. There's a lot of conservative ideas that I have, and one of them is treat people like you'd want to be treated. But if people don't treat me like I would want to be treated, I don't have to do business. So sometimes people go online, and it's the worst examples are actually, okay, this is probably killing business. I'm talking about something that might be considered negative, but I want you to know who you're doing business with if you buy from me. I've had people, my sweet admin, Heather, I've had people get her on the phone, call, gripe, curse at her, go online and curse, and call names, and say horrible things about me and my employees, which none of which are true. I understand people get upset and in the motion, but that just won't fly with me, and so I don't put up with it. It just isn't going to happen. So when people are really mean and they threaten to sue and stuff like that, I've said this publicly before, if you're going to do that stuff, you're dead to me, and it's over. So I don't respond, and essentially it's like being blacklisted. I just won't deal with you. I'll keep my end of the bargain, but if you're going to go online and I'm going to tell everybody in the world that you suck, go ahead. That's fine. Because you know what? It turns out that most people are great and reasonable, so I'm great to them. But we do have support. It is probably smaller than I wish it were, but we try our best. And so the next thing I do, first thing is I give my customer support the carte blanche if there's somebody that's rude or they threaten or they go online and start cursing or doing something that's unbefitting of a calm person. They can fire customers. They can fire them. Second thing is I say, listen, if the warranty is expired and you're pretty sure that it was something that comes through wear and tear, then no, we're not going to replace it for free, because every bot that ships out of here, that's one of the reasons I stopped doing kits. It was really hard to ensure that those people were going to put those kits together right, or we're going to follow instructions and all that kind of stuff. So it just got to be a nightmare. So now I ship the Simple Pro is our main one right now. It comes fully assembled. Well, there's 4 screws you got to put together. But it comes fully tested. We know for a fact that those left the building in an extremely padded box, like really the best packaging I've ever had. They deliver working. They work. Every single one works. And so it's hard to hear when people say, well, it just never worked. It never worked. That's just not true. It did work, or I wouldn't have shipped it. So I'm a little bit, when it's 6 months out and they're saying it never worked, I want my money back. I don't do that. So anyway. All right, I'm losing people by talking about this bummer stuff. But anyway, we do have customer support. Be happy to help you. Reasonable people get wonderful things. All right. So that's pretty much. Yeah, and people that say I'm amazing, Mark, I'm kind to you because, I mean, I love this community. I even like the strange ones, the weird ones, the mad ones, I've actually, several occasions, there's this one guy that, just so you know, I'm not just some ogre. I'll tell you a good story. So this guy was so mad at me. He was mad. He bought 12 Simple Pros right out the gate. Boom, they bought them. And it was up in Chicago or something. And he got home, didn't read the instructions. I know that for a fact. In fact, he told me. I didn't read anything. I plugged it in the USB. It wouldn't work. And so I was like, okay. All right. Excuse me. Took him through it via email and text, and we tried to deal with him in customer service over and over and over and over. Well, it's stretched out, right? And so he was just still frustrated. Well, the backstory was, because I just called him. I said, hey, you're tearing up my customer support people. Let's talk. And so I went in and I called him. And this guy, first he cursed at me, and I let him just go. Okay, it's me. I own it. Let us hear it. And so he let me have it. And some of them were fair points, like, no, this is a different style of bot. He had an old Simple Matter, a Plus or something. So he was used to Marlin and doing it, M codes and like tweaking it. And he was one of those guys that liked to tweak all of his stuff. And he's slicing things all kind of crazy ways. And so he wanted control. And I said, you're a control guy. You shouldn't have bought this bot. But if you want him to be used in school, I'll tell you how to make it work. And he was like, oh, okay. So I talked him off the ledge. And he was like, I can't believe you called me. I just can't believe you called me. And I was like, well, I call some people, even the unhappy ones, because I want to stay in touch with the audience. And so I wanted to call you. You were like the worst one I've heard of in a long time. And he's like, yeah, I need to apologize to Heather. Anyway, so basically I turned him around. Now, it was still a bumpy road after that. But essentially it came down to this. He feared his IT guy at his school, and so he just wanted to sneak these printers in and get them online. Well, that works if the Wi-Fi is open. The Wi-Fi wasn't open. And so he was like, well, we have all these stringent requirements. I said, well, let's do a conference call, like a Skype, with the IT guy at the school. And so he did, and I did. And so we're on video, and this IT guy, super dude, like really geeky, but awesome. And he comes in, and he's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I said, yeah, we just need a username and password for the SSID, the name, and whatever your password is, you can put it in there. And he's like, oh, that's it? That's all we need? I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, okay. And so he, totally worked. So there was one room that was too far away from the Wi-Fi, and they had to move it closer. But anyway, so the breakthrough was, I said, take one of these bots home. Go to your home Wi-Fi and see if it works. As soon as he took it home, he's printing. So anyway, wasn't a perfect road or story, but I did turn it around. So good guy. A lot of times, if you stick with them and just let them vent a little bit, people calm down, and you're able to help them. And they become fans sometimes. All right. That was a tough change to accept when I got my Pro. I know. I was the same way. This is going to freak people out. I was just talking to Gabriel today. Let's see. Do I need this? I don't think I need this. I was talking to Gabriel today, who's one of my builders, and he's doing the cell phone cases. And I said, man, don't you love this Simple Pro? Just being able to send it on Wi-Fi. Like we can send from our printer or from our computer to any of our printers. You just choose, and we've named them. You just choose it, and it goes. And yeah, you got to go hit the download print button, and it takes, I don't know, a couple minutes to download, and then boom. it's printing, and he's like, I know, dude. I didn't like it at first because we still have some old simples and plays in there that go the old way. That's the way we used to like to do it, take an SD card over there and put it in there. But now we all love just the simplicity of sending it to the cloud, letting it slice. And we do have some stuff coming for the cloud. Our programmer's back in town. He's working on it. And I told him and Jonathan, they were standing there, I said, dude, we're working on any tip size, any bed size, any starting G code, so you don't have to do the one that's hot, like burned into the hub. You'll be able to change that. So if you don't want any of that starting leveling stuff, you don't have to do that. And more control. And they both like stopped what they were doing and were like, are you serious? Oh, that's going to be awesome. Because they like the bigger tips too. And they'll be able to set that up and use it. It'll be awesome. But anyway, so yeah. All right, enough of that. The Printrbot t-shirts. Boom. We gave them away. We shipped them. It's just a simple logo. It says Printrbot. It's a start. Dave's printing these. He messed one up. That's mine. I still love it. It's like a little signature from Dave on my Printrbot t-shirt. So this is the only color I have right now. These are nice shirts. A couple different brands. I didn't realize this is an Anvil, lightweight, medium, 65% polyester, 35% cotton. I've worn it a couple of days. Not this one. It's a medium. I don't know if I'd fit in that. They run a little bit small. So I had a large, and when my wife washed it, we were testing it to see if the ink held up fine. Washed it, dried it. I think it felt a little bit more like a medium after that. So they do shrink just a little bit. So if you're going to get one that's a little bit bigger so it doesn't shrink too much. But these are for sale right now. Those sizes, medium, large, extra large, double X. Yes, I will get small. Yes, I will get triple extra large. But not right now. I want to burn through some of these because I have a bunch of them. So this is the first. And I did find the logo, thank you, Mick, I'm not wearing it, for the simple metal, like that skewed simple shirt I wear all the time. Got the art for that, so that'll be the next one. So hopefully I'll get that done next week as well. So I got 3 goals for next week. The Crawlbot size, CNC, the full kit CNC with everything. You don't have to buy your own stuff. It's all in the box. And I may make an exception with the router because some people don't want this router. But that and the new t-shirt next week. That'll be cool. So guys, have a good week. What's happening this weekend? My boy's got a game. That's all I can think of. But have a good weekend. Happy printing. Since I'm flying solo, I got to turn off my own audio equipment and stuff, so I can't just have it go. Anyway, take you later, guys.